So I wanted to talk really quick about how to nurse baby bunnies from newborns, in case you ever run into the need to do that. These baby bunnies were orphaned. Animal control called us and said that a box of 6 baby bunnies and the dead mama had been abandoned outside of a pet store locally, so they brought them to us. We did a search online of how to care for newborns. When we got these bunnies, their eyes were still closed. They were less than 10 days old, because I guess baby bunnies' eyes open at 10 days old. And so we had a lot of work on our hands. We found that we needed to feed them KMR, which is kitten milk, kitten formula. And we could only find that at Petco. PetSmart did not have it, at least in store. Didn't look online. We needed it immediately. And we started with just the push syringes, the very, very smallest syringe you could find. And that worked okay. They didn't have a very good sucking mechanism right off when they were brand newborns. These bunnies we've been feeding for about 2 weeks now, twice a day. And they've worked themselves up to somewhere between 10 and 15 milliliters at a time, which is more than a tablespoon. I'm not sure exactly. I can tell when they're done eating, because they're done. They'll stop drinking and they'll leave the bottle alone and they'll run away and play. You can see some of them over there in the sun cleaning each other. Probably shouldn't let them be running around, because they will poop and pee and pull carpet. But I'm having my daughter keep an eye on them while I feed them. And let's see, what else do we need to know? We bought this bottle kit, and it came with like 5 different nipples on it, or 5 different nipples that you could choose from. This is the only nipple that works, and it's not even a nipple. It has an open end, but the other ones don't work because the bunnies chew them right off the very first time they start drinking out of them. They'll clip them off with their teeth. For some reason, they don't mind this one. They do pull on it with their teeth, but they don't nip it off and ruin it. We've gone through several. He's done. We've gone through several bottle kits, because they will chew off the end. Oops, you probably can't see the little holes in it everywhere, but they do put their teeth in it. I feel bad for Mama Bunny. Anyways, so I'm just making a video about how to feed baby bunnies. This is about 3.5 tablespoon bottle, and that bunny ate that much, so eat about 1/3 of it, maybe a little more. And on to the next bunny. It's really hard for us to keep track of which bunnies we've fed when they're all running around, or when we put them back in a cage. So I do the black. We have different colors of bunnies, so I do the black bunnies first, and then there's one gray bunny right there. I do him next, and then we have 3 gray-brown bunnies that look a little bit different. One's a runt. He's scrawny, so I feed him, and then I feed these 2. Another way we can tell which bunnies have been fed in the beginning, before we had that system down, is which bunny has a soggy neck. The ones that have the soggy necks have been fed, because they tend to leak milk down their necks. We haven't figured out yet how to clean that up when we're done feeding them. We don't have a lot of extra time, because in the beginning feeding was taking an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening, and that was really busy. We had a really busy schedule. That was hard for us. So we'd quickly wipe them down with a wet washcloth, but their bunny fur was holding it quite a bit, so then we started rinsing them under the sink just quickly, and then their brothers and sisters would help them clean their neck, dry it off with their tongues. One thing I haven't really figured out how to do is how to clean off this dry milk that's kind of crusted into their fur. I've tried to wipe and wipe and wipe with warm water. I don't want to put soap on them. That's a bad idea because then they'll lick it and get it in their delicate digestive systems. Oh, another thing we did in the beginning when they were brand new, I read, is that they ought to have some good bacteria put into their system other than just the kitten milk, because when their mama feeds them, she has good bacteria in her mouth, in her milk, just the fecal matter around the nesting box that they're able to get into their systems, and that helps them establish a healthy digestive system. But since they didn't have that, we went and got some acidophilus pills. Do you want any more? So you can just tell when they're done. They're just done. And that's how much he drank. So I can't remember. I haven't fed you. Okay, you can be next. So we sprinkled acidophilus in the kitten milk, shook it up, put it in the microwave for just like 5 seconds because you don't want it hot, but body temperature, they really drink it a lot better when it's body temperature. My husband's not patient. He just likes to feed it to them cold, and they don't drink it as well. They let it dribble, they turn their noses up at it, and they've got to eat. They have to eat. So just warming it up to body temperature is great. We've over-warmed up the milk a couple times and had to let it sit out on the counter or add more cool water and formula to it to cool it down before we feed it to them. But again, the acidophilus, we looked for the capsules that you could open and just use the powder, but we couldn't find those in stores anywhere around here, so we just got the tablets, crunched them up into a fine powder with the back of a spoon, and sprinkled a teeny bit into the milk. I mean, like a few granules was enough for these tiny guys. Think of what else you need to know. Okay, they're eating very well now because they've learned the system. We've had 2 weeks with them to try. They're kind of trained on how to use this now. In the beginning, it was not so good at getting them. They wanted mama's nipple. They didn't want this thing, and they didn't want the hard syringe shoved into their mouth. But we had to do that. They didn't want it, but we knew that they had to get food down them, so we used the hard. I'll show you the syringe in a minute, but we used the hard-tipped small syringe, and rather than go into the front of their mouth, we went into the side of their mouth, on the sides of those two goofy teeth that they have in the front, and then we kind of gently pried open their mouth while pushing a drop or two of milk in to teach them that, this yucky thing we were putting in their mouth was going to taste good and give them some milk. And then once they figured that out, they would drink out of the syringe a little better. But again, there was a learning curve for them and for us. In the beginning, I would say just be patient. Just try and get the milk in them. You will waste a lot down the front of them. It will spray everywhere. It will splash. But as long as you can get the right dosages of milk down them. I can't remember what it was when they were newborns. He finished that off, and I bet he wants more. So I'm going to pause and go fill up some milk for him. So this is how we've been mixing up the milk. Just show you real quick. We're using KMR. And it's 1 scoop of powder. This scoop is a tablespoon. So it's 1 part powder to 2 parts water. So I'm going to put some more powder in there. I'm going to add, okay, so I just added 2 tablespoons of water. I'm going to put it in the microwave for like 3 seconds. Okay, and then to mix that in really well, I found that shaking it works good. So I'm going to put the lid on, I'm going to shake it up. I'm going to keep checking inside to make sure all the powder's been dissolved into the water. Alright, it's all shaken up. I was going to show you the small syringes. These are the teeny tiny syringes. This is the hard tip that they hated. In the beginning, the markings have worn off, but in the beginning, you're going to want to measure out carefully how much you're giving them, because overfeeding bunnies can be dangerous for them can make them sick and die. So the House Rabbit Society has online the recommendations for how old they are. It's hard sometimes to know how old they are, but I think 3 to 5 milliliters was what newborns should eat, and then it goes up from there as they get older. So knowing that they needed 3 to 5 in the beginning, I knew that I had to feed them, at least this much. I need to get down at least this much in each bunny. And if they wanted more, that was great. If they wanted less, if they didn't want it at all, I knew I just, needed to put the syringe in their mouth and make it happen. There, in the beginning, we did have one night where we just couldn't seem to feed them really well, so we put them to bed. I think they were kind of hungry. They woke up the next morning, they were wobbling all over, and their bodies were just shaking. We knew they hadn't had enough, so we tried a little harder. Okay, so I'm going to draw this up into the syringe, refill my bottle, and feed again. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, so if you have questions, send me a message. This is just my, while I'm feeding them box. Their actual cage is up here. It's on loan from the animal shelter. We put a mix of Timothy hay in there. You see they're cute little pellets. Put a mixture of Timothy hay. There's some pellets for them if they want to try those. Once their eyes open at 10 days, you can put Timothy hay and pellets in there to get them to start sniffing and tasting and chewing. If you have baby rabbits that don't yet have their eyes open, there's one more thing that you need to do. You need to get a wet washcloth, and when you're done feeding them, you need to wipe, or not a washcloth, but you can use a cotton ball or a towel or anything that you have, but you need to get it warm, wet, and then gently wipe their little bums, because that's what their mama does to get them to poop and pee, is she licks their bums, and they need that stimulation in order to poop and pee. Again, that's only when they're brand newborns and their eyes aren't yet open. Once their eyes are open, you don't have to do that anymore, thank goodness, because it's already enough work to feed them and clean their cage. These guys, I think, are about 2 or 3 weeks old now. Anyways, any questions? Send it to me. Good luck.